Hello everyone. This is May the 16th and I have to do this blog because on this day in 1929 was the first official Academy Awards ceremony in Hollywood. It took place in the Blossom Room of the Roosevelt Hotel, and there were 250 guests present, all the household names of that era. And I know some of them because I worked in a movie that was supposed to have taken place on that day, at that event, in the exact location where it originally happened, on May 16th, 1929. And the scenes are featured in the Blake Edwards movie Sunset, which featured James Garner, Bruce Willis, Malcolm McDowell, and more. And I was a waiter, dressed in a white tux, my hair slicked back, and I was assigned to the table with Malcolm McDowell, who in the storyline was a performer at the Academy Awards ceremony. Now, the movie, if you're familiar with Blake Edwards, he's created legendary films like the Pink Panther series with Peter Sellers, also Victor Victoria, S.O.B., and made one film that in the 90s, I believe, that was actually quite good with Elvin Barkin. I can't remember the name of it. I have the VHS tape version of it. I don't know if it was ever released on DVD or not. It's the storyline is basically, what if two of America's greatest real-life heroes, Tom Mix and Wyatt Earp, actually met, and what could have happened. And of course, it's fictitious, but it's very true to the time period. And I can tell you, being in that ballroom, Blake Edwards was he was very particular about authenticity. So, there were lookalikes there of Laurel and Hardy and Mary Pickford and Charlie Chaplin and James Cagney. The James Cagney actually even had the wavy, red hair. I took a double take on that lookalike because it really looked like James Cagney. It was remarkable. So I was assigned to Malcolm McDowell's table, and he was very playful. We played with the food, and of course, when he throws food at you, if you throw food back, nobody's going to say anything because the actor initiated it. I'm not telling anybody on movie sets to do that, okay? But it was an interesting experience, an interesting day, and I was given a silent bit. And that production was so big, there were 3 directors, 2 assistant directors. I was assigned to the second assistant director. But at one point when I was given an opportunity to do a silent bit, Mr. Edwards himself came up to me and said, "Here's what I'd like you to do." So essentially, it was to set up some props for Malcolm McDowell, and there were 2. There was a small table and there was a chair. So, and it was on the ballroom floor, and there was a big band there as well, it was playing music. It was extraordinarily authentic. He told me to take a prop, which I believe was it might have even been a small table. This is, maybe about the size of it. And to walk over at the back end of the ballroom by the door that goes up to the stage where the band is, and go up to there, and then bring it down and put it onto the floor where Malcolm McDowell's character would be performing, and then to walk off. And I don't recall if it ever got put in the film. I actually I think saw it in the theater one time, and maybe I watched the VHS tape. I don't recall, but Anyway, he came up to me, told me what to do, and he says, "You got it?" He says, "Thank you very much," and then he walked off. And I realized, thinking, oh my gosh, here's the director of Pink Panther movies, and you know, some of my favorite comedy movies, and he just directed me. It was quite an experience. So, needless to say, I'm going to remember the first Academy Awards ceremony, even though I wasn't at the actual one, although maybe I was. It certainly seemed like it in the late 80s. So that's my story of working on a film.
Welcome to the first annual Academy Awards.
Elaborate more on the subject of the very first Academy Awards ceremony that took place at the Roosevelt Hotel in Hollywood on May the 16th, 1929. Popular movie The Jazz Singer, which was one of the first talkies, wasn't allowed to be entered into the award ceremony because it was considered not fair for movies with sound to compete with silent films, because at that time, obviously, the majority of the films were still silent films. And another interesting story at the very first Academy Awards was a special honorary award was given to Charlie Chaplin, but he had an original nomination for Best Actor, Best Writer, and Best Comedy Director for The Circus, which was removed so he could receive this special award. And on record, the reason why that was done, again, he couldn't receive both awards, apparently. And it's on record, apparently, that was attributed to his unpopularity in Hollywood. Again, that's what was on record. Even though his volume of work is legendary and amazing, he didn't receive another honorary Oscar until 1971. If you remember, many actors and actresses were blacklisted because of the ridiculous McCarthy era that people were accused of even being sympathizers to the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. And Chaplin himself left Hollywood and went back to England, and he was allowed to come back to receive this honorary award in 1971, and I remember seeing that on TV. He broke down in tears, crying, and saying, "I didn't think you people still liked me." Interesting story. I think it's all about politics, unfortunately. That's the story. And also the Oscar, the word Oscar wasn't used until 1939 because the Academy Executive Director Margaret Herrick remarked that the statuettes, which they were called, looked like her Uncle Oscar. That's just a little side story.